To assert that semiconductors operate in the modern world is an understatement. They not only run the factories that create the electronic gadgets we purchase and use, but they're also a fundamental component of practically every electronic item we purchase and use. They run our laptops, cell phones, cars, washing machines, and refrigerators. Yes, refrigerators. And that's just the equipment in our house. Semiconductors are crucial for the military and the electrical system in general. If the software is eating the world, chips are the teeth, and there aren't enough of them. This has resulted in a massive global shortage, and it went so low that General Motors, one of the world's largest automakers, has said that it would end up losing approximately $2 billion. This is due to the fact that semiconductor chip scarcity forced it to close a few auto manufacturing plants temporarily. President Joe Biden has just decided to order economic and national security specialists to search for gaps in the system. Welcome to Technology Zone, where the home of technology resides. Here's how the worldwide chip deficit developed and what has been done to address it. What are semiconductors exactly? It's silicon with transistors integrated into it, and these circuits may now be found in almost any product that requires electricity. These chips are found in nearly every electronic device these days, allowing them to perform their functions. People nowadays talk about modern microchips that power smartphones, computers, and vehicles, as well as advanced medical equipment and analog semiconductor devices, which operate radios and thermostats. In 1947, Bell Labs in New Jersey successfully demonstrated the transistor, a type of semiconductor. Its creators were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics, founded the first tech businesses in Silicon Valley, and set the groundwork for the present digital world. Following the transistor, the integrated circuit, then the microprocessor, and finally the ultra-small, ultra-advanced chips we have nowadays. The semiconductor business is now enormous. Within the sector, there are semiconductor businesses called fabulous companies that develop the chips and foundries that produce them. Integrated device makers like Intel are increasingly designing and manufacturing chips. Although large semiconductor firms are embracing the fabulous model and turning out sales to foundries like Taiwan Semiconductor or Samsung, the chip shortage has become more complicated due to this development. As per the Semiconductor Industry Organization, the U.S. chip sector has secured 47% of the worldwide market share in sales, but just 12% in chip manufacturing. So, how did it all begin? COVID-19 to be precise. Because of the coronavirus epidemic, people were obliged to work from home, attend school at home, and generally do anything at home. People had their PCs updated, they bought smart speakers, upgraded their home cinemas, and spent a lot of time playing video games. Businesses required additional cloud infrastructure as they hurried to build up remote work solutions. As a result, it became evident that electronics corporations understood exactly what to do. There was also a supply of chain disturbance, but it started to work itself out in the summer, and China surprised everyone by returning to work. Companies realized they needed to ramp up output dramatically. The demand for semiconductors shows no signs of diminishing. Per the Semiconductor Industry Association, worldwide semiconductor sales will exceed $439 billion in 2020, up to $6.5 billion from the previous year's total of $412.3 billion. Global sales during the month of December 2020 totaled $39.2 billion, up to 8.3% from December 2019. Another major cause of the scarcity is that automobiles are becoming more complex, necessitating the use of more semiconductors. In reality, the auto sector is now experiencing a shortage of computer chips. Cars, in particular, require older, fewer modern semiconductors for things like steering systems and current chips to operate increasingly complex in-vehicle computer systems. The vehicle shortages resulted from auto OEMs canceling all of their purchases during COVID last year. It just takes time for supply networks to react. It's not entirely the fault of the semi guy. It's the car supply chain, but only to the level that the shortages are drawing attention and kicking things off. We believe the argument about what we should do regarding semiconductor production in the United States is where the debate may be productive. The chip scarcity is expected to last until 2021, according to analysts. We are in a terrible spot right now. Of course, we did hear from AMDs like Lisa Su and the others about whether or not their interpretation will push us close to the edge. Semiconductors have become indispensable in practically every sector. The chip scarcity has compelled the White House to make efforts to strengthen the U.S. semiconductor supply chain. We must no longer play catch-up. Just after the supply chain catastrophe, we must avoid another crisis from occurring. To begin with, and in certain circumstances, developing resilience will include boosting our domestic production of certain sorts of materials. In contrast, others will entail closer collaboration with trustworthy friends and partners. Nations who share our values, just so our supply chains cannot be used as leverage against us. The Bond administration will not combine everything into one big package and then negotiate it. China will examine national security and economic security from a geopolitical standpoint. There is a strong connection between the two. Let's concentrate on the most vital things. The Biden administration is doing it with the semiconductor sector and the supply chain. Let's focus on how to handle risk, how to do independent testing, and how this administration will cooperate multilaterally with our friends to figure out how to bring all of these elements together to make us safer. We are encouraged to learn that now the United States will not only restrict nations and corporations, but will also work towards making America more relevant in industries such as semiconductors. That is how we will retain and expand our technological innovation lead on China in the semiconductor industry. Executives claim they'll be able to boost output to close the gap, but that won't happen until 2021. After the acute shortages are overcome, semiconductor demand is only expected to rise. Smartphones with 5G-enabled processors are required for future 5G telecom networks. The so-called Internet of Things will embed chips in an increasing number of standard products, and COVID-19 will enable remote work. Whenever it concerns semiconductor chips, China is aiming to become self-sufficient. It now imports the majority of its semiconductors. Beijing has long desired to develop its own sector, but the United States has imposed limits on semiconductor shipments to China and telecoms. Because of Huawei's role in stimulating the industry, Beijing has considered chips a primary priority in its next 5-year plan, which will be presented in March. China's economic development is based on 5 essential foundations, with $1.4 trillion set aside to expand the semiconductor sector by 2025. The objective is for 70% of chips used in China to be created in China. Because of COVID-19, many people in the corporate sector are taking a closer look at their supply chains. And it's no secret that electronics production is headquartered in China. However, many people are unaware that the world's top pure chip manufacturing company, TSMC, is located in Taiwan. Taiwan may not have the same commercial concerns as China, yet this is still an island off China's coast. So there was a lot of debate early in the epidemic last year that we needed to look at the situation from a geopolitical angle, because if the military can't create a plane, they will not have chips. Taiwan will be stuck in a geopolitical disagreement. Many folks just said, we need the capacity to make premier node chips here in the US. Quit being sluggish because it's time to put your intellect to work. Welcome to Technology Zone, where you'll find fascinating information from the past, present, and the future, from the grandeur of nature to wild creatures and amazing truths. Subscribe today and you will never be disappointed.